Hello, Damien here from Cloud Technology Experts. In this video, I'd like to walk you through Kubernetes ConfigMaps. I already have a blog written on this, so I'm just going to walk you through the blog. You can go to the website for cloudtechnologyexperts.com to read a full blog here on the screen as you can see it here. So let's understand what are config maps. Config maps are used for passing variables to your pod. This is similar to when you write applications. You have the option to pass your variables to your applications by stating them in your code or by passing them through environmental variables. Now you understand that passing them through your code is not the best way, because then each time you want to make a change, you have to go into the file and edit the file and make the change. At the same time, those are going to be local. They are not centralized, so you cannot use them with other code. So same with pod. When you want to have a variable which is common to a whole lot of pods, you can pass them through config maps. So that is what we use config maps for. Generally, you can either use config maps or you can use secrets. Config maps are similar to secret. However, while we use secret for secret-related information like passwords and keys, we use config maps for things that are not secret. So how do we create config maps? You can create config maps from the CLI, or you can create config maps by writing manifest file. Writing manifest file is going to be the most appropriate way to do it in most scenarios. So that is what I'm going to demo to you in this video. Once you have created your config maps, the next thing is how to reference them in your application. So I'll take you through that as well. So now I'm going to take you through the process of creating your config maps and referencing them in your deployment or pod specifications. So let's start by creating a config map. I already have, so the file here is called cm1. So here in this file, manifest file, it follows the standard way that we create our manifest files in Kubernetes. We have the version of the API, we have the kind, which is the config map. Then we have the name, which is called the weather variable. Now here's a very important section of a config map. This is where we define our variable. We do that in form of a key pair. So here we have weather is summer. We have today weather being hot, and we have tomorrow weather being mild. So we have here three variables defined. So if we do kubectl create -f cm1, we have, it said it's created. So if we do get config maps, it's saying that the name is called weather variable and that the data we have are 3. So the name is from here, weather variable, and the 3 data there are these ones that we have here. Okay, so now that we have our config map defined, we can go ahead and see how we can reference it from our application or our pod specification. There are 2 main ways you can do that. You can either use the env command, or you can use the env from command. Either that or these. Now, what's the major difference between them? If you use the env from, all the variables, the 3 we defined, will be passed down to your file, either your pod or your deployment, as the case might be. If we use the env, we have the option to select which of the variables we would like to actually pass to our configurations. Right? So here we can select, but here normally all the variables will be passed. So let's use the first example and see how that works. Well, I already have the manifest file defined here for deployment, and I have that file here. If I cat deploy config maps, that is the same file that I have here. Now, the only section that you might pay attention to as far as this example is concerned is from here to here. Okay, so here's a deployment. As you can see, the kind is a deployment. The name is deploy1. We are creating 3 replicas, and the container name is container CM1 and the Nginx image is going to be used. Alright, so now we have the env. We say the name is weather seasons. The value is from config map key reference, and the name of that config map is weather variable, and the variable we're passing here is called weather. We're passing weather. Okay, so what will happen once we run this variable called weather will be assigned to weather seasons. But remember, weather is going to evaluate to summer. Weather will evaluate to summer, as you can see here in the definition for the config maps. So our weather is summer. Then we are passing another variable, and that is called today, which should be assigned to weather today. So by the time we assign today to weather today, it will evaluate to hot, because that is what we have here as a value for key today. Right, so once we run this, we will see that those two variables have been passed, and we'll check to see it. So kubectl create -f. So the deployment is created. kubectl get deploy. We have three replicas are all running. So if we do kubectl get pod, we have all the pods are running. Now to see those environmental variables, we can do kubectl exec. We copy one of these, can be any one of them, and we paste it here, and we do env. Once we do that, you see that these two variables here have been passed. Weather seasons, which is this variable here, and weather today, which is this one here, weather today, and both of them have been assigned different values. This first one here has been assigned summer, and this one here has been assigned hot. All right, so now we've been able to pass those environmental variables to our pods. Here we have 3 pods, and each of them we have these variables defined, so that they can, any application inside the container or the pod can utilize them. Another common way of consuming config maps is to mount them as volumes. You can mount them as volumes, and I'm going to use another example to show you. This is similar to the previous one, except that now we're mounting them as volumes. So let me show you the file here. That is a file which you see here as well on the screen. And now everything from top to everything from here up until here are the same as the previous. The only difference now is we have a volume mount. So we have a volume here, and we're mounting that volume inside the pod on this location here. Okay, we're mounting at etc config, and the name is a config volume. Okay, so where's the volume coming from? The volume is coming from this config map here called weather variable. So weather variable. So all the values we have defined are going to be passed and mounted at this point, etc config. So let's create this file. kubectl create -f. That is created. We do kubectl get pod. You have the pods are still creating. If we say get deploy, you have the deployment objects should be ready. Alright, so now we have all the pods are created. Let's check that our variables have been mounted from the config file spec. So to do that, we do kubectl exec. Let's copy any one of these from the second deploy, and we do list etc config, which is the mount point. The mount point is etc config. And now we see that all the variables have been passed and mounted. We have today, we have tomorrow, and we have the weather. All the three variables have been mounted inside here. So now I've shown you what are config maps, I've shown you how to create them, I've shown you how to reference them using environmental variables, and also mounting them inside your pod. It's very important that you create your config maps before you reference them in your file. If you don't, your pod may not complete because they will give some error. At the same time, when you try to reference your config maps variables, make sure that you reference the right key, because if the right key is not found, you're also going to get some error. Alright, so it's important first you create your config maps, then you reference them, and you make sure you reference them properly with the right names. Otherwise, you might have some error. Alright, so that is it from me. I hope you like this video on config maps. If you do, please remember to sign up to our YouTube channel, and also remember to come back for more technical videos on Kubernetes like this one. Again, Damien from Cloud Technology Experts, and thank you for watching.